Keisha McMillan, thank you so much for spending some time with me today, taking some time out of your day to come on here and talk with us about the blueprint coming up on Thursday, September 17th. It is getting closer and closer. We are so excited. So tell us a little bit about what you are going to be presenting, a little bit about why you wanted to be involved with the blueprint. Just let people know what they can expect.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And what I'll be presenting at the Blueprint Summit is the art of collaboration and how you can create or produce something while working together with other people to help bring it into fruition. And I wanted to present for the Blueprint because I just saw it as an opportunity to um, share the art of collaboration in the means of how I've been navigating collaboration and wanting to present what I've been learning to other people so that they don't have, like the group project fear and can learn how collaboration can be really fun and powerful and uplifting for all parties involved.
I love that. I think especially as a women's oriented summit that this is, that's something that's very important to women. You know, we know about the good old boys club and things like that in
Mm.
business. And it's not what you know, it's who you know and moving forward in those ways. But sometimes we can get so competitive with other women that we are not as good at collaboration as I feel that we should be.
Yeah, and I think there might even be a lack of information on what collaboration actually is and what that means to people. Because in just kind of tossing the word collaboration around, you kind of get people who are like, oh, I don't like to collaborate, I don't want to work with other people, and there could be various different reasons as to that's the initial response. And again, I like to go back to that group project fear that we had in like middle school, high school, and different things like that of, who's putting in the most work versus who's not and who's dedicated. And so I think if we can all come to a part of reaching the goal of just bringing that one project or that one big goal into fruition and using different parts and different skills of the people involved, there's something really magical about working together and knowing that you don't have to feel that burden of carrying all of it on your own. And also, you might be able to learn new skills and new opportunities with the people you work with. So, I really want to hope that people who are interacting with this presentation feel a little bit more confident in their own individual skills, but also feel more confident with just working with other people to reach one big goal.
Yes. Now I know a little bit about you outside of this blueprint event that we have, and I know a little bit about a lot of collaboration that comes up in your day-to-day life in a lot of things you do. Can you let people know a little bit about your background and why you would be somewhat of an expert in this field in this topic?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background has always been the arts. I have done theater for about 20 years now. And I think that's a lot of where collaboration comes into play and kind of building a family and having all these different working parts in order to put a production together, whether you're directing, acting, crew, all the other elements to it. And so my background has gone from theater to arts nonprofit. I've worked in various art nonprofits over the years and kind of learning how to become a community organizer and using arts administration to help initiate people from, in their artistry, like one level and kind of growing up in that. And so my background has been from theater to film work to modeling to curating art exhibitions to anything all between, like multifaceted, multi-passionate within the arts, and then also just that nonprofit background and working in various nonprofits. And so having multiple like feet in different departments, working with various people to bring different productions and projects to life, you have to learn how to work within a team and work with new different people depending on if the project's new or if you've never worked with these other people before. and using your individual skills to bring that to life and nurture it, but also relying on other people who might know more than you or can bring other skills to the table. And so now I've taken, those 8 years of multifaceted and artness in the arts and in nonprofit. And now I've started my own for-profit business called Liberated Creatives. And we really hone in on collaboration because we're doing big production projects, we're doing workshops, and we're doing other little things in between of just facilitating unique art experiences. And we can't really do these ambitious, unique projects without bringing more people to the table in order to bring them to life.
Can you tell me a little more about what that looks like? I'd be very curious to hear more about these projects. This is so exciting.
Yeah, yeah. So Liberated Creatives, it's a new business. We just reached 1 year a couple of weeks ago. And I will give like our biggest project we're working on right now, which is a documentary project. There's also an art installation involved, and then there's some other community projects that will help support the overall big documentary and installation part. And this project is called Finding Home, and we're collaborating with Springfield Tenants Unite to talk about homelessness, housing instability, and just using the arts as a creative tool to not only instigate change, but bring awareness to how, housing and housing instability affects us locally and as, communities at large. And so, in order to do a documentary, which originally started off as just like a little 5-minute project, and now it's a feature film, and we've had to, bring in a director, we had to bring in crew, we had to bring in sound, we've had to bring in marketing, we've had to bring in an administrative side to make sure that the backings of all that is working out. And it's one of those projects to where there's everybody on the team has multiple different skills and talents that are unique to their own selves, but bringing all those different skills and talents in order to bring the project to fruition at its capability of what it can be best of, we've had to kind of figure out like, what do we need? What are the skills and resources and tools that we need to bring this to fruition? And who's excited about learning new things and using their skills and tools, but also who do we know can bring this to the table? And so that's just one example of how my business is using collaboration, but there's also the collaboration of teaching artists and doing workshops. We recently partnered with the Storyhouse Bookstore to facilitate a workshop for an upcoming artist, Indigo Childs, to do a workshop on his own unique art of soulscaping. And, we had to figure out like, what does the teaching artist need? How can we figure out this for this, partnership to work both for Storyhouse and for Liberated and for the artist, and working together as individuals, but coming together with our own unique skills to just bring together soulscaping for the community. And that's another thing, is collaborating with these different artists to bring unique experiences, whether it's a team of 10, like this documentary project, or a team of 2 or a team of 3, and just really honing in what people are good at and what people are excited about and how they can bring that into fruition for the project.
That is such a beautiful thing. I'm so excited. I love Indigo Childs also. I got to meet him and interact with him here recently, and his work is beautiful. It's amazing. But also, I want to speak to the, I think there have been a lot of us who we were the theater kid, and
Yeah.
then you grow up and you've got to find the job. But I have found for myself, and I know you can probably relate, in even my businesses that have little to nothing to do with theater, I have found so many overlaps, because you have to know how to put on this character and go out and do the thing that you've got to do for the day, and maybe you don't feel like it every day. But I have probably leaned on my theater background more than almost anything else, and improv and all that, the yes and whenever you're collaborating, finding a way
Mm.
to work with people.
Yes, yes. Theater is such an underestimated tool in all the things you learn about communication, how to work with other people, how to hone in on your own individual skills. And I'm glad you actually bring that up, Tiffany, because I would encourage anyone who needs to do public speaking or is working on a new project and working with new people and just trying to figure out like, okay, like who can do this? Like how do we use your skills here? I would recommend taking like a couple of theater or acting classes because you're really working in on all those different fundamentals and elements that you just mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, we did that years ago in one sales job that I had where they brought in people, the guys from the Skinny Improv years and years ago,
Yeah.
and taught us the art of yes and yeah,
Yeah.
it takes you far. Well, I love all of it, and I can't wait. Honestly, like separately, I want to talk to you about a lot of that stuff just when we get a chance. So I want to hear a lot more about that. So, what brought you to the blueprint? What did you feel was a way that that you feel like this is something that you wanted to be a part of?
Yeah, I think it was really just my connection with Eden, the founder, the one who put this all together. And I remember, and when you're doing entrepreneurship or you're starting a whole new adventure like entrepreneurship, it can be there can be parts of the journey that feels really lonely because you're not really sure of like, oh, there's actually not a blueprint on how to do what I'm trying to do because it's never been done before. And so, meeting and talking with other entrepreneurs or like minded individuals who, want to chase these big dreams and bring something not just for themselves, but for the community at large. Talking with someone like Eden who can just offer, advice based on where she's been in her journey or just offering support for other women and other entrepreneurs really just showed that there's also something really magical within not just collaboration, but within community and connection. And I think Eden saw something in me and what I was excited about and passionate about, and saw an opportunity of like, hey, like you're actually not just passionate about this, but you're actively working towards something like this. How can you use your journey and your experience to share that with the world at large? And that was something I honestly didn't really see in myself at the moment. So I was like, you like me? Like, if you want me to talk about this? And she was right. The more I'm collaborating with people on different projects and working with different people and navigating that almost fear of being seen in different projects with different people, I've come to realize that that fear is just, the disguise for initiation. And it's okay to have some uncertainty and potentially make mistakes in the beginning because, again, never done this before, whether it's never done the project or you've never worked with these people, and navigating how does everybody work best. And yeah, when I kind of realized that I don't have to be an expert in the field to still present and talk about collaboration and just my own journey and experiencing collaboration, when I realized I didn't need to be an expert to still talk about it, I just kind of felt passionate about sharing my story and my journey and helping other people kind of navigate it in a way that they potentially have never navigated it before. And that's why I wanted to do the Blueprint Summit.
Yes. I appreciate that. And I think that you have a very unique perspective not only
Mm.
because of your extensive background in theater and production and in front of and behind and all of those things, but also in the creation of the things that you have done, because you're not just
Mm.
somebody who stepped into somebody else's world to participate. You created a whole new world of community, and that's big.
Mm. Thank you for saying that. And I love that you bring that up too, because I think in order to do this, there's something really beautiful and magical about working in different, projects with different people and, being like the student, right? And like curating an art exhibition at a new gallery and learning how that curator, does work in their gallery, or working with a new theater company and how their production skills are different from the other one, or, the transition from theater to film and learning all of those things and navigating those differences taught me, what works best for me versus what doesn't work best for me. How can I learn new skills and new tools in a way that I didn't learn at this previous project or this previous job? And also the art of learning, unlearning, relearning, and you kind of taking all of those different opportunities and taking a little piece of it each time to now create this puzzle. Um, of these different puzzle pieces that maybe shouldn't go together to create this puzzle, but somehow magically, beautifully, they do. And so there's also kind of like that thought of like, oh yeah, like I do have a little bit of experience and skills and understanding from these different places to now build the blueprint that works best for me and what I'm trying to accomplish with other people.
Yeah, that's so great. It's so exciting. So much growth. I love all of that.
Thank
So
you.
along the way, when we talk about, learning from others, and then you mentor others a lot of the time, are there any books or resources, maybe podcasts, anything that you have found either useful or meaningful? And this doesn't have to be necessarily something just in your field or pertaining to business, but if it's, a piece of fiction that touched you, or whatever it was, do you have anything like that that you would recommend to others?
Right off the back, something I recommend does not come to mind, but something that helped me with being the student and then becoming the teacher is the geese principle. I don't know if you
Okay.
the geese model. I don't know if this is an actual thing or if I just made this up, but when geese are flying in their like rotation and like they fly in like this like V shape, and there's someone up front, there's like two on the side and two in the back, and they all have their different purposes in like flying towards their destination. So like the geese in the front is leading, or the geese in the back are kind of like overseeing all the geese, making sure everything is good. And then the geese in the middle are kind of just keeping steady afloat. But this thing that's really beautiful about the geese model is that you can rotate the positions. And so if the geese who's kind of like the leader or like leading the front, if they're like, bro, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Like, something's going on, like I need to kind of pull back, the geese in the middle, someone can be like, I got you. Like, let me lean on us and like we'll just rotate. And so something about using the geese model in my practices has been really helpful in reminding me that even though I'm like the teacher, the one with the expertise at this time, doesn't mean that I have to carry the load all by myself. I do now have this team of people I'm collaborating that, if someone feels confident and comfortable enough to kind of lead the charge based on whatever the task is for that project or whatever the department for that project is really focusing on, they can take the charge. And, I can kind of pull back, reset, reground, do what I need to do to take care of myself. And now, like, I'm learning from that other geese. Remember, the goose, I don't know, but that's
Yeah.
leading. And like a good example of that is, this documentary, Finding Home, where, our director, Ezra, when it comes to directing the film and editing the film, I've really relied on their expertise and been able to be like, what do you need from me and from everybody else to best support you so that the project can be the best of its capability? Or, the soundtrack for the documentary. It's like, I don't really know a lot about music. So, Jay, you're in charge of, creating the soundtrack and creating the sound effects and helping me with audio. And, it's something where when you have those skills that you can lead, but also something about staying grounded and humbled, and something really beautiful that the teacher can also become the student, and that role can change throughout time. And you would not really be able to do that if you're not collaborating or working within the team of other people. And something really exciting about just seeing other people like take on the spotlight or take charge at moments when they're feeling like, this is what I'm really good at. I can have a lot of expertise on how to do this, and just kind of letting them do what they do best and learning from them. So then you now have a new skill set under your tool belt because you were able to, release the need to lead or the need to be in charge and just learn from everybody else as well. And I think there's just a really nice balance to that. So look up rotations for geese
Yes.
and how they fly.
Yes. That brings up such a good point, especially with entrepreneurship. When we talk about that
Mm.
rotation and being able to say that you actually need a rest. And I think that is so hard, especially any sort of entrepreneurship that deals with the arts or artists, because one, you have all different types of schedules. Not everybody is on a 9 to 5, very obviously. And when you're creating things like a documentary, specifically this one, you're going to be doing things at very odd hours. And it's like your baby when you're creating something. So it doesn't fit in a 9 to 5 schedule either. So, how do you find ways to not completely exhaust yourself, to still stay committed to the event, to the project, but be able to allow yourself to take a moment? Where is that for you? How do you balance that?
Ooh, that is such a good question because I am actively trying to find that answer and navigate that. As someone who grew up very hyper independent, the hustle and bustle and grinding is something the way I've operated for 15 years. And now I'm kind of like, I can't operate that way anymore, and, be able to nurture all the things I want to do, but also realizing that nurturing myself is a priority because I can't nurture these other things if I'm not taking care of me. Um, and so, one thing that I have been doing with the different people I'm working with in these projects is emotional check ins.
Mm.
Um, I feel like that is something I never really had in other professional spaces or other jobs, where we just take time to say, like, hey, how are we feeling today? How are we feeling about this task that we need to accomplish right now? How are we feeling about the project overall? It might sound silly to some people, but that is something we do, an emotional check-in before every team meeting. And then we do an emotional check-in at the end of every team meeting. And sometimes if we've had, heavier weeks or busier weeks, we'll schedule a meeting just to do an emotional check-in. Especially because in this particular project, again, I keep using the documentary as an example because it's like the forefront thing that we're working on
Yeah.
right now. But for this particular project, we're talking about a lot of vulnerable things, such as housing. And, and I like to use what's called the stoplight method. And again, this is something I learned from my theater background and doing intimacy training. And the stoplight method is, if you're feeling green, that means you're feeling good, you're ready to go. If you're feeling yellow, you're feeling okay, but you might just need some check ins now and then before we do something. And if you're feeling red, it's I'm not doing so hot, but I'm here, and that's the best that I can do. And that gives you the opportunity to express, as much or as little as you want. Like you can just stop at the color, or you can, further express what that color means to you. Um, and so not only do I practice that with the people that, I'm working with, but I take part in that practice too. I always answer my own emotional check-in, um, and building that intimacy and that trust with the people you're working with to create a not only a safe space but a brave space to check in like that. It holds you accountable to how you're actually feeling and what you need, and then being able to communicate that to everybody else. And that just gives everyone space to say, hey, I might need to pull back this week, or I might need a break, or I might need to extend the deadline. And it just creates, more vulnerable communication and trust.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in that trust, that real trust, whenever you are able to give and receive that, you can create real growth from there. Um,
Hmm.
so do you have to kind of follow up in that field there? Do you have any quotes, mantras, anything that has followed you through your life or that helps you get through a day, anything like that?
The biggest quote that I've been telling myself within this past year is do things differently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, do things differently. Especially if you get stuck on something, it's like, all right, how can I add a little bit of whimsy or creativity to it? Or how can I look at a different perspective? Or, hey, I'm kind of stuck on this. How would you navigate this? Do you have any other tips or tricks? And just allowing yourself to kind of release how you've always done something and just try something new. And, that really follows to what Liberated Creatives is all about, since we are facilitating these unique art experiences. It's like, what is a soulscape and why would I want to go to a soulscaping workshop? And, showing people, and also, meeting with Indy and being like, hey, have you ever taught your technique of soulscaping? Would you ever consider a workshop? And, you know, sparking that inspiration to try something that, Indy has never done before. Um, and so, yeah, I think when you're starting new projects and working with new people, um, doing things differently and just kind of leaning on that, so it kind of erases the fear of any specific expectations or perfectionism or what is the outcome. We don't, we have the idea, but like when it comes to the journey, it can pivot, it can change, and that's okay.
Yeah. I've loved this conversation so much. I could talk to you all day. But I'm assuming we both have things on our schedules today. So just to wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to say to invite people? I'll give you just a moment to anything at all that you would like to speak on before we close.
Hmm. I think if I could say something to kind of wrap this up is don't be afraid of connection. Don't be afraid of connection. Whether it's just a compliment to a stranger you're walking past or asking questions because you're curious. That person that you don't know in the room that you just strike up a random conversation with, they might have the answer you need for that next, piece of the puzzle. And
Mhm.
so consider coming to the blueprint to connect with like-minded entrepreneurs and powerful, strong, incredible women.
Yes, you never know who's going to be in the room, right?
Yes.
Yes. In the room where it happened. uh, all right, Keisha. Thank you so, so much. We will see you on Thursday, September 17th, if not before. And I am so excited to hear everything that you're doing and to see you at the Blueprint.
Oh, thank you so much, Tiffany.